Hi everyone, it's Sari, and today I wanted to share a clip from a podcast that Haley and I recorded this month with 10 tips for creatively mending or dealing with holes and stains in your clothing. So our theme this month on Seamwork is lasting, and I was inspired by a question that I posted in the community on Seamwork all about this vintage jacket that I bought, and it had this pretty small but noticeable hole right on the chest. And I just got so many great ideas from other people on the Seamwork community that we decided to round up all those ideas and add a few others that we had for this podcast. So I hope you enjoy it, and maybe one of these tips is going to inspire you to make a little bit of progress on your mending pile. And if you like these kinds of tips, be sure to check out the Seamwork Radio podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. And let us know here in the comments if you have a big pile of mending, or do you do a good job of keeping on top of it? Because I feel like even those of us who love sewing don't really love mending. So let me know down below what you think about mending. I'm really curious. So enjoy these ideas from the episode of the podcast. Cool. Well, I wanted to share some of our ideas that we came up with for fixing up your clothes and making sure that they last, whether it's a stain or it's holes. We have a few ideas about that, and some of them are fun, and they might actually inspire you to actually do some more mending if you're like me and want to do something that's fun and not just something that's practical. So the first idea we have, the first tip is just darning or mending, which can be something that can be visible or not visible. So for example, with that jacket that I mentioned earlier, like I said, it was plaid, so it had a lot going on. And one person suggested to actually take some threads from the jacket itself and use those to reweave the plaid hole, which I thought was such a cool idea. I don't know that I have the patience to do that, but it's something that would be totally possible. This jacket has pockets with the same fabric, so I could just cut a piece of the pocket out and patch that, or replace part of the pocket where you wouldn't be able to see it, and use those threads to reweave the actual fabric, which I think is I don't know, that would be amazing.
I got chills. It's so magical.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's like recreating a garment from the ground up.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, if you do that, props.
Kudos. Kudos to me if I do that. But there were a lot of other great ideas for doing some visible mending or some darning. And it really depends on the look that you want to go for. If you wanted it to be, this is... to my mind, this was a little bit of is a blazer, so it's a little bit more of a fancy jacket. I probably wouldn't do a patch or something on this particular one or anything that's super visible, but depending on the garment, that's visible. I think visible darning and visible mending can be really cool, really interesting. And we're going to put some links in the show notes to some books that are specifically about visible mending and some ideas for doing that. So if you want to learn that, I think it's a really cool skill to have. And then sort of related to that one would be embroidery. So rather than using mending techniques, you could actually just embroider something over the hole or the stain and make it just kind of like a cool part of the garment. You could do something like, colorful flowers, or if that's not your style, if that's a little hippie-ish for you, you could do more of a tonal embroidery. I love white work embroidery, like white on white, I think is so beautiful. And, black work embroidery can be really beautiful. There's also red work embroidery. So if your garment is white, you could do any of those colors and it can look really, really classic and like an heirloom, really. So there are all different ways you can use embroidery that I think can make a garment look really beautiful and special. And then I think for denim, I think embroidered denim is really cute.
So
I'd really
cute.
like it.
I have this pair of jeans that they're a little bit big for me now, but not too big that I can't wear them. And they also have some the thigh holes. If you're like me, you have like big thighs that rub together.
Mhm.
And I've been thinking, I should just like really just like deck these out with some like really groovy embroidery and just like make it a statement.
Yeah. I love that idea. I just think it looks so, I don't know, it looks so cute.
It does. Especially for summer, like these like cool embroidered jeans and
Yeah.
like white tank top.
Yeah. I think that's such a cute style, and I don't know. To me it's timeless. I think it always looks good. But I think just think denim is timeless, John.
It is.
And then another idea that's could be a little bit easier is to patch it. So you could do either some visible patching, or you could, do more invisible patching if you've got a hole. So one idea I had that somebody suggested for that jacket also was taking like a piece of leather or leatherette or something like that, and patching it over the shoulder of the jacket. So sort of like a rain shield on a trench coat would be.
Oh, yeah.
And it would look more like a shooting jacket. So if you're not familiar with shooting jackets, they have a leather kind of exterior over the one shoulder. And that's because when you're holding your rifle, it's to protect from the recoil or something. I don't know anything about guns. Don't care for guns, but the look is kind of like a classic kind of town and country look, and would have gone well with that particular garment. But that's just an example, a really creative one I thought that came from the community on that thread.
Very Ralph Lauren.
So yeah, it's very like English countryside. So I thought that was a good example just because it's something I wouldn't have thought about on my own, and getting suggestions like that from other people I think is always so helpful for sparking more creative ideas for things that you thought maybe were, out of life. Yeah. So that's just one idea, but there's lots of other ways that you can patch garments. You can just use a scrap of fabric that you already have, or a cute embroidered patch, or in the case of this jacket, like I said, I could have taken a piece from the pocket. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing, actually. Take a little piece from the pocket and use that as a patch, and patch it from the inside so it's less visible, and try to match up the plaids. This is why I haven't done it yet. It's going to be a little bit of fussy work, but I think patching can be a great way, and also looks cool on jeans. I have a denim jacket that it doesn't even have any holes. It just has a lot of patches on it because I like patches.
I think you bring up an interesting point with when you're patching, considering whether you're placing the patch on top of the garment or under. I think you can do both in a way that look intentional. And patching from underneath is a really cool way to add like a pop of color or print if you're wanting it to be intentional and obviously very visible, but also is definitely the strategy if you're trying to make something blend in as much as possible.
Yeah. And then, so those are kind of some of the sewing ideas that you can do with holes specifically, although you could also do some of these with stains. But another idea that's a little bit maybe more simple and temporary is just to cover it up with something. So you could just use a pin or a scarf or whatever. And I know that doesn't seem like, maybe a long-term solution, but if you like the way it looks and it allows you to keep wearing the garment instead of replacing it, then why not? It's still something that's going to keep it out of the landfill. And so there's nothing wrong with that, I think. I love scarves. I have a lot of scarves. So this is a very practical solution for me sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's also a lesson in just like you don't need to overcomplicate it. Sometimes a simple solution is a good solution.
Yeah. And then if you have something that has stains, you can always dye it, or you could block print it. You could, I think we have a video on block printing, don't we, Haley, on the YouTube channel, or no?
I am pretty sure that we do. It might be in the classroom, actually. I think it's in the classroom. Sienna taught a class about block printing the quince robe.
So if you are a Steamwork member, go check that out. So block printing I think it's so fun. I love it. And it's actually really easy. and you can make your own blocks if you want a particular print, or you can buy blocks. I have a whole bunch of blocks. I've only done it a few times, but I have. Once you start buying them, they're really fun. I have one that has a tiger on it. I'm dying to use it. I really
Oh,
need to
that
use
one's
that
so
one.
cool.
Yeah. So, dyeing, for different dyeing techniques, over dyeing it, block printing, that's a really cool thing you can do if you have a stain. You could also just refashion it. So I've done this with, for example, dresses that have a stain that I can't get out, maybe more towards the hem. You can make it shorter, or you can cut it apart and sew it to something else. So you could sew the bodice to a different skirt, or make your own skirt to go on it. So there's lots of ways you can reuse parts of garments instead of getting rid of it or discarding it completely, which I think is, I don't know, it's just something to think about as you're evaluating things that you absolutely can't get out.
Yeah.
And then kind of related to that, you could also just reuse it. So you could cut up the fabric and make it into something, or just add it to your stash for later. I think this is a really good thing to do for if you want to make some household items like pillows or accessories, or you can even turn it into part of a quilt later on. I think that's really cool. And if the garment means something to you, that can be really special too, a way to preserve something that has maybe gone beyond its useful life as a garment.
Yeah.
I really love that idea. I like that for scraps too, just things that are left over. Like if you make something really special, if you make a project that's really special and you have memories attached to it, maybe like, I don't know, a garment for somebody that you love or for yourself for a special occasion. I think it's so nice to use the scraps for little projects like that you'll have for a really long time and can never outgrow. And then another idea is to make some kind of a patchwork garment. So this is kind of related to refashioning, but that's just kind of one other thing you could think about is how could you turn it into more of a patchwork garment, or use little bits of it in, something that's pieced together. That's something that's really in fashion right now. So you see it a lot. If you do a search on Pinterest for, quilt coats and things like that, you'll see lots of patchwork. And it's not just, the hippie flowery prints of the 70s, if that's what you think of when you think of patchwork, because it's definitely what I've thought of for a long time. But there's all different kinds of styles and colors, and it can be a really cool look.
Yeah, I've even seen more kind of minimalist versions of this kind of trend, with people taking sweatshirts and cutting it right down the center. Two sweatshirts, and then, combining them by stitching the center front to create kind of a two-tone look. And I think that could be a really cool approach for, if you have just an enormous hole that you don't want to work with or stain, a way that you can just divert a little bit of waste there.
Yeah. And then if you really can't save it, if you really can't find a way to do any of this stuff with it, if you want to get the most out of it, you could also just harvest the notions before you do donate it or get rid of it or give it to somebody else. Maybe somebody else who wants to use the fabric, or if you're going to recycle it somehow. So you can take the buttons off. One thing that I like to do is that if I have old bras that, obviously bras have a shelf life. There's only so long you can wear a bra before it wears out. But before you get rid of a bra, if it's not usable anymore, you can cut off the slides and the bra notions. And I probably wouldn't reuse the underwire, because that's probably past its shelf life by the time you're getting rid of a bra. But the hardware, the other hardware, the sliders and the rings.
Yeah, the rings, and then even the clasp in the back could possibly, depending on the wear on it, be harvested as well.
Yeah, and then you can use it to make your own bra later,
which is so fun.
Yeah, or even if you're not into making bras, I really like to use the sliders and rings on like a spaghetti strap dress, or a camisole, things like that, just to make the straps adjustable, which I think it looks good and it makes it more usable. So that's another idea, is just harvesting the notions. And if it has buttons that you love, go ahead and take those if the garment's not wearable anymore. And then the last tip, number 10, if none of these work for you, but you love the garment anyway, you could just, enjoy the wear and tear and wear it anyway. We're saying that certain types of garments look great with holes, and if it's that kind of garment and maybe you're just not sure if you're the kind of person who wears holes in your clothing, try it out. There's nothing wrong with a little wear and tear. I think it can just add to the beauty and the story of your clothing. So I don't know, just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, embrace it.